Well, good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 260 of the Prancing Pony Podcast, where, well, we need people of intelligence on this sort of mission, quest, thing.
Yeah, well, that rules us out.
Yeah,
but folks,
no doubt.
Go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, who's such a good friend I know he'd give me the last of the long bottom leaf if I ever ran out, Alan Sisto.
Maybe, Sean, but how about we never try to put that theory to the test?
Probably shouldn't.
Folks, tonight we are introducing two guests to the show, and I have to say we're happier than a couple of hobbits and Saruman's larder to have them joining us tonight.
Yeah, we certainly are. But first, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, we are reading and talking our way through Tolkien's stories of Middle-earth, a few pages at a time.
Usually. But a few times a season, we take a break from the books to do what we're doing here tonight, sharing a conversation with a guest, or two. And our guests tonight are sure to be of the very highest quality.
Indeed. Now, the first guest is an actor and musician who's made numerous film and TV appearances, including Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, Outlander, and a whole lot more, as well as voiceover work for animation, video games, and radio plays, such as the 2007 BBC production of Douglas Adams' Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. He also appeared in a little indie fantasy trilogy you may have heard of called The Lord of the Rings by a director named Peter Jackson, and he sang for the soundtracks of The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogy.
And our other guest tonight is an actor who's appeared in some of your favorite sci-fi and fantasy titles, including X-Men Origins Wolverine, Lost, and Star Wars, not to mention many others. He even made an appearance on one of my favorite British shows, Top Gear. Now, most recently, you might have heard his voice on the Amazon animated series, The Legend of Vox Machina. Oh, and he also appeared in that little fantasy trilogy you might have heard of called The Lord of the Rings.
And now these two gentlemen have gotten into the podcast game with The Friendship Onion, a weekly podcast available from Cast Media, where they're looking back on their time together on The Lord of the Rings, talking about their careers, and peeling back the layers of their friendship, both on screen and off.
But you know them best as two hobbits from the Shire, Peregrine Took and Meriadoc Brandybuck. So let's not put it off any longer. It is my absolute pleasure to say, Billy Boyd, Dominic Monaghan, welcome to the Prancing Pony Podcast.
Well, hello. Thank you. That was lovely, a lovely introduction now, I have to say, Dom.
Yeah, thanks. Nice to be here.
It's nice, that. That was good.
Well, thanks. It is an absolute pleasure to have you guys here, and we are looking forward to our conversation today. But to start, I only have one scripted question here, and that is the one question that we ask everybody who comes on the Prancing Pony Podcast. I'd like to ask each of you, when and how did you first discover Tolkien's work? And what do you remember most about that first experience of Middle-earth?
I used to live in Germany when I was a kid. My parents are from England, and we used to travel back from Germany in my mum and dad's car, probably once or twice a year, to see our extended family in Manchester. And on the way back, my parents used to play us the Hobbit radio plays, and then later on, as we got older, the Lord of the Rings radio plays. So that was my first introduction to Lord of the Rings and the Tolkien world. So my first kind of characters that I knew was kind of Smaug the Dragon and Bilbo and Gollum. And similar to Billy's story, I thought that the stories were all about Bilbo, and it was my dad who had to tell me, well, no, actually the kind of bigger, more expansive work deals with Frodo. And then I didn't actually get around to reading The Lord of the Rings until I was around about 15 or 16. We had almost like a slightly storybook version of The Hobbit. So it was the entire text of The Hobbit, but then quite a few pictures on this book that was almost coffee table size. So that was a very easy read for me, and something that was not a challenge. But then obviously, The Lord of the Rings is quite an intimidating book to start. So I had to wait a little bit longer. Yeah. And I guess at that point in my life, I wasn't fully aware how much I liked fantasy and was enamored by fantasy, but clearly I am. It's been a huge part of my life and my work. But, dragons and dwarves and elves and hobbits and stuff seemed very attractive to me. Especially hobbits.
Yes, especially hobbits.
Of course, yeah.
The greatest race there. But, mine was a strange one. I hung out when I grew up. I grew up in Glasgow, Scotland, in a housing estate, and so everybody sort of knew everybody in the estate, and there was a crowd of boys, maybe 8 or 9 of us, that used to hang out and play football, soccer. Is pretty much the only thing we did. And then one of them, one day, had this book, and none of us were really into reading and novels, but he had The Hobbit, and he said, this book is great. And I don't know how we ended up all getting on it, but we all started reading The Hobbit together. Not to each other, but, when we finished playing football and we all went home, we'd say, okay, let's read a chapter tonight, or let's read 2 chapters. And then when we met up the next day, we'd all talk about it. And it was the only time in my childhood that we did anything like that. But it's such a great memory, reading about this dragon and then being able to share it with my friends. And then we didn't go on to Lord of the Rings afterwards. I don't think we knew there was a Lord of the Rings. We just read this book and that was it. But then Tolkien sort of followed me through my life after that. When I left school, I became a bookbinder. I used to make books. And one of the books that I made was Lord of the Rings. I worked at HarperCollins, and I operated the machine that put the covers on the paperbacks. And it was one of the few books that I didn't read. Because once you'd set the machine up, you didn't really have to do that much. So I had a lot of time for reading. And whatever book I was making, I used to just sit and read at the machine. And I never did with Lord of the Rings. I think, as Dom says, it was kind of intimidating and a little too big. And I didn't read it. And it was only when I left that job and I went to but I went for a kind of long vacation in Florida. And I took the book with me. And even then, I didn't read it.
You dropped it in the pool.
I did actually drop it in the pool.
I
that's a true story.
From the Friendship
And
yeah.
so I never read it then either. So I didn't actually read it until I was cast. So The Hobbit very early on, and then I didn't read Lord of the Rings until we were making a movie.
Yeah.
Strange.
Billy, I love that story about reading The Hobbit with a bunch of friends and just everybody sort of exploring it together, right? Just discovering it for the first time. That had to be pretty amazing.
Really, and especially as it wasn't a normal thing that we did. It's not as if we, did the line, The Witch in the Wardrobe, and then said, okay, let's next do The Hobbit. And it wasn't,
right.
We weren't reading it at school, so I don't even, my memory doesn't, I can't remember why it started. I can remember the guy who started it, but I don't know why or how we all got a version of it. I don't know how it worked, but it's a real memory that's stuck in my head, and a lovely way to read a book. Just to kind of to read a couple of chapters and then talk about it the next day. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Tolkien's work just has this way of kind of bringing people together. I think that's one thing we've found just from doing a podcast about it. You guys obviously must have amazing stories about, coming together through Tolkien as friends, right? I know the two of you are friends now, and obviously made amazing friendships working on those movies. It does something. It just brings people together, creates community.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that's very valuable.
Yeah, we talked about this the other night when we did this panel with Elijah and Sean. I think maybe the commitment to certainly Lord of the Rings, 1,000-page book that is, a relatively adult reading, even though it includes, giants and trolls and magic and things like that. It is, it's not a kid's book by any means. And I think that commitment to that book, it just kind of binds together the people who have gone through that commitment, which I think is what makes it so profound,
It's like an experience. If you know, you know.
Mm-hmm. There is some of that for sure.
Cool. Well, so let's talk a little bit about obviously your involvement in the movies. That's where you first rose to many of our radars. It's been about 25 years now since production started on Lord of the Rings movies.
Is it 25? 20? 25?
Just over 20. Yeah.
No, wait a minute.
I
traveled
when production began.
I traveled when I was 31. I traveled on my 31st birthday. And what am I now? 53? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like 22.
Okay.
Yeah, 22.
Yeah.
Don't
Okay.
stick another
All right, so-
3 years on there, Sean. Gee.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I don't need to be any older
It's
than I
been a
already
part
am.
of my life for so long. It just feels like it's always been
Yeah,
there.
you're like,
know?
was that 140 years ago? What is that? Jeez.
And you guys look great after all
Right?
this time.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
The knees are painful.
All that plastic surgery's done wonders, guys.
Oh, come on, no. Well, 22 years then. So, I mean, just looking back on it after all this time, and I know you guys spend a lot of time talking about this on your own show, but I mean, can you even put into words just how it's affected your lives? I mean, it's one of those things. It's just an absolute cultural milestone that you're both got to be a part of. And I'd love to hear you guys talk about that a little.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cultural thing. It's a pop culture thing, but it's also just a life thing as well. You know, you make friends, you visit certain parts of the world, you know, have relationships with people, and you know, it becomes a life thing. Especially something like this, which, you know, very often when you're working as an actor, you do a job, and that's it. You know, you go to a certain part of the world and you do a job for 8 weeks, and then you wait for it to come out, and maybe it does something and maybe it doesn't. Obviously with Rings, we're over there for almost 2 years, and then it comes out for 3 years in a row. So that's 5 years just built in. But then obviously all the press for that afterwards and the knock-on effects, you know, it continues and it continues to grow. I was saying to Billy, you know, at this convention, these conventions that we've been going to, and certainly the last one, we're now starting to see, you know, 5, 6, 7-year-old kids that are getting into the movies, and their parents are, you know, waiting to read them the books and things like that. So that now we've got this new generation which are watching it in a kind of retro vibe, you know. So it keeps on going, and is something that we love doing. I mean, you know, Billy also said this recently, which is like, imagine being involved in something so influential in your life that you do not enjoy, that you were not happy with, that you know, you weren't super proud of, or you didn't like the way it turned out. That would be tough. And luckily, you know, Lord of the Rings was incredible across the board, you know.
Yeah, and it's always hard, isn't it, to think of your life without a big moment that happened in your life, and then your life takes that path. It's that sort of multiverse idea, isn't it? That, well, if I wasn't in Lord of the Rings, what would it be? And you know, you can make up lots of different things, but you don't know. You don't know what your life would be. But being part of these movies is such a positive thing. You know, the people who like it, the source material, how great it is. That, you know, that there's no real negatives to it. You know, it's such a wonderful thing to be part of. That you know, I've got no problem when people think, you know, oh, do you get bothered when people still say you're a Hobbit or whatever? It's just that it's a really positive thing to be part of.
Yeah. Yeah. It's only, except when people confuse the two of you, right? I remember you guys talking about that on an early episode of the Friendship Onion, just like people asking you to sign each other's pictures and things like that.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time. I mean, you know.
Really?
Yeah, all the time. It happens at every convention.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind being compared to Billy. It's a nice compliment, you know. But when Billy left, we were just in Denver. Billy left the night before, and I stayed for July 4th, and then came back this morning. And as I was leaving the hotel this morning, I walked past some guy, and he went, "Oh, Billy."
Yeah.
And I went, "No,
other one."
no, it's the other one. And he went, "Oh, okay, I was close." And I was like, "Yeah, you were close. You're definitely close, but it's not right." I think it's because we're together very often, and you know, we attribute it to that kind of C-3PO R2D2 thing. Obviously, I know the difference, and a lot of people know the difference between C-3PO and R2D2. But some people who don't really know Star Wars very well, they could confuse the two because they're always together and they're kind of partners, you know. So I think we get it.
But I get most of it. I get 80% of it. The thing that you're talking about, the names, you know, Billy, Dom, I don't know. I see them both together. I don't know which one's which. I get that. But the thing I don't get is when people say that they love me in Lost, or I'm like, well, how do you, like if it was C-3PO.
You were great in Star Wars,
yeah,
Billy.
exactly, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, if C-3PO was in another movie, if like C-3PO did a bit in, you know, 2001.
Yeah.
I wouldn't then go to R2D2 and say, you were great in 2001.
Yeah.
Because I watched the big gold robot.
It's true. Yeah.
And we don't look like each other.
Yeah, we don't look like each other.
Or
That's the other
sound
thing.
like each other.
Is like we will often say to someone who comes over, if they have a photo that they want us to sign of the other person, we will say, but I don't look like that, do I? I don't look like Billy. I don't sound like Billy. I understand we're in the same film.
I get the name thing that, there's two guys and I don't know what one's Billy and what one's Dom, but when it's from a totally different, that's the one that always gets me.
Yeah, that's a little off.
Yeah.
That is kind of a wild one.
Yeah.
So, we were talking a little bit about the cultural impact, the pop culture icon that The Lord of the Rings has become. When you were working on it, at what point did you start realizing, or did you even realize until after it had started to come out, just how big the cultural impact was going to be? I mean, we're talking about a Star Wars level event where it becomes the film of a generation, the defining film in many ways. When did that kind of become obvious to you, and what did that feel like? Like, wow, I get to be involved in that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not during filming. I remember us all having conversations with Pete about the idea that this could easily go straight to DVD. That
was my Red Bull there.
Yeah, no, your Green Bull.
Yeah, my green Red Bull.
That was something that Pete mentioned to us a few times. He just said, "Look, we're obviously going to do our best, and we're going to try our best." But he said, just so you guys know, it wouldn't be surprising for this to go straight to DVD, come out at Christmas on DVD, and that be its thing. So we knew that everyone was trying really hard. We knew that we all loved the books and loved the source material. But I think, certainly for me, when we went to Cannes for the festival, and Pete and his team brought about a 20-minute piece of footage from Moria, something like that, and they showed the moment that we kind of fight off the Watcher and then go in and see the tomb, and then the cave troll, and then the Balrog, and then Gandalf falling, and then us crying, and then Aragorn saying, "Get them up," and then as we start to be roused to get up, I think it cuts at that point, and the audience just lost their marbles. I mean, people were screaming. I mean, there was obviously a standing ovation, but people were screaming.
That was just me, though.
Yeah, Billy had
I was screaming.
Received his text report that night. And then we went to a party. We went to a party which was like a Lord of the Rings themed party, which seemed very big and huge. And then the next day, we all showed up at a press event, and that seemed to be mass hysteria at the press event. And I think I got on a plane very quickly after that to go back to England, and I remember being on the plane thinking, whoa, that was kind of like incredibly bigger than I thought it was going to be. I knew it was going to be like the first time we were going to see some footage, and that was exciting for the cast personally, but I didn't realize that the snobby press media were going to be like salivating around us, so that was fun. You know how I love people salivating.
Yeah, you do. You like some salivating.
As long as they think you're you and not
Yeah.
That's right.
I think when
I want them salivating over the wrong guy.
when we were doing the premieres as well, there was a lot of people used to come out for those premieres. Like I remember in London, the guy who was driving me in the car to the premiere said that he'd been, driving to premieres at Leicester Square for 30 years, and he said he'd never saw a crowd like it. So I think when those things were happening, and we go to Japan, and there'd be thousands of people out in the streets. It was a crazy time, really crazy.
Yeah.
Was it a little easier then to go back into those roles, or did that pressure maybe make it a little bit more difficult? I mean, knowing now the cultural impact and then going back and filming the rest of the work.
I think because they were basically one big film, the three of them. It wasn't like, oh, we've had a success, let's write another script, and what are we going to do now? It was, I'd never had the feeling of, oh, they might not like this one. No. I think if you bought into the first one, you're basically you had to wait a while to see the rest. It wasn't like, oh, we're reinventing anything, So it was just always, for the next couple of years, just exciting to see what people thought of the rest of it, because it was the rest of it. It wasn't new films. Yeah.
Yeah, and like Billy said, I think maybe some of the insecurity that you might feel of, the first one comes out, and then they test the temperature of the audience, and then they start writing, maybe more stories for certain characters that seem to have tested well for the first audience, and then other characters get left behind. It wasn't like that. Pete and his team absolutely loved the book, and they honored all of those characters, certainly in the Fellowship and other kind of characters as well. So you just kind of knew, okay, well, I'm going to be around for these next 2 films once the first one comes out. And if, like Billy said, if you like the first one, the second and third one just get better and better,
Yeah.
Yeah. And there really was a cohesion between the 3 of them. Like, it really did feel like one film. I remember I had read the books several years before Fellowship came out, and so I knew what to expect. But I remember going to see Fellowship the first time, and I remember it ends, and that last scene is like Sean and Elijah just standing at the top of the mountains, right, looking east into Mordor, and then it ends. And I remember there was a lady 2 rows in front of me in the theater, just like kind of like looking around, like looking for a referee or something. Like, why is the movie over already? And
I need a judge's ruling on this. That's not okay.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I mean, it was kind of visionary in a way, because nowadays, if you look at things like, well, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel or so many things, there's almost always more story coming, and people have just kind of gotten used to that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it was. I think a lot of people had that reaction that lady had in the theater with you. I think a lot of people thought, well, this is a film and it finishes, and when it didn't finish,
right?
And I think even with the Marvel and stuff like that, it wasn't like. I don't think there's ever been anything like the way Pete did Lord of the Rings, where he just stopped it. He just went, right.
Yeah.
Now wait a year, and we'll see what happens next.
It's just not a finished story. Yeah,
which was great. Right. It's the only way to do that story.
Yeah.
Rather than I'm sure there was some studio execs who were wanting a different ending. Tie it up somehow and then start again. But
or maybe like rush 2 Towers into a summer release and then do Return of the King at Christmas. And Pete was like, no, this is 1 a year and we're going to keep them waiting.
And because he needed a year as well. Yeah. I mean, we did so many pickups and so many reshoots.
Right, lots of pickups, yeah.
And,
all
the special effects, they were struggling just to do it in a year.
Yeah.
I bet.
But, there was, obviously, it did change a little bit. There was pickup scenes, there was rewrites and new scenes and new story arcs. But the general feel of the movies was there from day one. Obviously, because we kept it so close to what Tolkien had done, which was the right decision. I'm 100% sure.
Yeah, and I think just Peter Jackson's commitment to his vision, right? And just this is what we're going to do. These are the 3 movies, and like one of you said just a moment ago, it wasn't.
Could have been Billy. Could have been Dom.
It was one of you guys, and I can tell the difference. I just can't remember who said it, but yeah, it was. It wasn't that. Oh well, people love Mary, so let's put more Mary in there. Not that they wouldn't love Mary, of course, Dom. Right. But it wasn't that. It was just okay. This is the story we're going to tell, and this is how we're going to do it. Yeah, and there's kind of a purity of vision to that.
Yeah, they honored the books. I mean, Pete is extremely interested in a lot of things, and I admire his deep dives into the things that he's interested in. We share some of those common interests, and then other things he's into that I'm not. But one of the things that we all shared with Pete is that he really loves those books, and so does Fran Walsh, and so does Philippa Boyens, and so did we. We were enamored with that world. We were enamored with those chapters, with the sets that they built. We walked onto Moria, and all of us were giddy, going, "Oh, this is Moria! Like this is what Moria is. We're in that chapter."
Yeah.
And when we would see crowd scenes or what the Balrog ended up, we'd be like, "Okay, that's that thing in that book." We all loved the book. Pete was extremely honorable to that book and to that writer, and I think that kept a huge amount of integrity kind of going through that trilogy.
I love though as well that there was little bits of Pete coming out more and more as it went on as well. Like I remember that the orc who's sort of white and he's kind of got a
tumours on
deformed
his
face.
Yeah.
And
the time of man is over.
Yeah, yeah.
That guy?
And that orc, I remember seeing that, and I was like, what kind of orc is that? You know, because it wasn't like the ones we've seen. It wasn't like a Moria orc. It wasn't like the orcs that we dealt with, or the Urukai. And I remember saying to Fran, what is that? Or where did he come from that he's like that? And she was like, it's Pete. You know, it's just like, just some Pete Jackson in there as well, you know. Yeah. So totally being, you know, respectful of the book, but also, you know, he's a master filmmaker, and he's putting his thumbprint on there as well.
And doesn't that guy just get unceremoniously taken out by a massive rock?
That's right. He just
That's another Pete thing. Like little moments of humor, because you know, Lord of the Rings gets very serious at times, and just at those moments where it gets a little too overly earnest or a little too overly serious, Pete will put a little mini joke in there. You know.
Yeah.
And Tolkien kind of did the same thing in the text. You get a little bit of, sometimes, you know, you get a little bit of these tongue-in-cheek moments, or maybe a little, you know, wordplay. Right. Is mostly what he did.
Really dry humor sometimes.
Yes, very dry humor. Wonderfully good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, folks, before we get back to the discussion, we want to make sure you know that when you finish listening to this episode, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony Podcast.
That's right. Our awesome listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces, from our common room on Facebook to our Reddit community, Twitter, and more.
Now, on Facebook, just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast. Be sure to follow the page, but also join the group for some great discussions.
And you can find us on Reddit at r/prancingponypod. And we're also at Prancing Pony Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
And don't forget to check out our new podcast, The Rings of Power Wrap-Up, where we discuss, analyze, and speculate all about Amazon's television adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth.
So look for The Rings of Power Wrap-Up and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And check out our social media at Rings Wrap-Up for more.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for waiting. We're going to go ahead and get right back into it. Going still with the movies, I wanted to ask this question. Was there anything that you did with your characters maybe that wasn't originally scripted? I'm thinking of things like, I know it was fairly well known if you listen to the behind-the-scenes stuff, that the moment where Viggo puts on Boromir's bracer was something that he came up with that wasn't part of the story. At least that's what we've all heard. Was there anything like that for you guys? And if so, what was your favorite moment like that?
I think we had moments like that quite a few times. It's hard to recall. I remember the Merry testing Pippin's height moment was. That wasn't. That's not in the script. It's just we had recently. We had recently drank Ent Draft. We found ourselves in that scene, and after Merry had made a few inquiries with Pippin in the previous scene about him drinking the Ent Draft and being taller, you've then got Pippin in the foreground and me in the background. And I don't even know if I said it to Pete. I probably did say it to Pete, but I don't remember. But I just thought, well, he knows that Pippin can't see him because Pippin's directly in front of him. And this would be a moment where Merry would just be like, hang on a second, let me just figure this out for a bit. So little bits like that were all over the place, I think. Right?
Even the very first day of filming, when we roll down the hill, when we bump into Frodo and Sam, and when we all land in a big pile at the bottom of the hill, I said to Pete, you know, it would be great and a really nice character moment for Pippin is if we landed right next to a big pile of cow shit. And the first thing that Pippin thinks is, oh, that was close. You know, like it's a good thing that, I could have landed right in the shit. So straight away, you see Pippin is always optimistic, you know. And Pete straight away went, yeah. And he went to the guys at Weta, can somebody make some cow shit? Make it look like cow shit? And I remember at the time when they made it, I thought, it's too green, it should be brown. But I thought, it's only the first day. I can't complain about the colour of the cow shit, you know.
They'll fix it in post.
Yeah, yeah.
Make it browner in
But,
post.
I think we have our title for the episode, Sean.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
But there was always things like that, and that was a great thing as well about Pete, is he's so comfortable in his filmmaking and who he is, and that he's totally open to ideas, and he knows good ideas and bad ideas, and he'll take them or not take them, but there's no sort of ego. No, that's not my idea, or I didn't want to do that. He's totally open to making the best thing that he can.
Yeah.
Which is lovely.
Yeah.
I think one of my favourite bits, it's not a scene for Mary, but it's just a bit, and I talk about it all the time because this was another thing that just kind of came out of nowhere. It was reshoots for Return of the King, and I was on set doing something else, and I was in like my final kind of Return of the King look, which was a longer Mary wig, no fat suit, I had all my armour on and stuff, and I was on a different set, and Pete said, just go stand in front of that camera and imagine that what you're looking at is the mountain of Mordor basically just exploding and collapsing, and you know that the ring has been destroyed in that moment, and just go do it. And I was like, oh, okay. And they put sweat on me and blood on me, and I just kind of screamed and kind of lost my shit for a little bit. And when I went over to see Pete, because he's constantly watching the stuff, and you can watch it again, Pete's kind of giggling. You always know if Pete's got this kind of like very, very kind of young person's giggle, like kind of giggle. He sometimes does do that, Pete. You know that you've done something that he's genuinely into, And he was like, look, come look at this, look. And I looked, and I was like, and I remember saying to Pete at the time, oh, it doesn't even look like me. Like Mary. It didn't look like Mary to me. And Pete was like, I know. And I could see that he's like excited about that, And it's just one of my favorite. It's just a cutaway. It's a second long cutaway.
I can see it actually in my mind now.
I know exactly
of
the
Mary
scene,
just
yeah.
shocked and freaked out and sweaty and full of mud. And my favorite thing about it,
Eyes big as saucers. Yeah.
my favorite thing about it is in that moment, he just seems to be really changed, And again, that's another Pete thing of just go stand in front of that camera and we'll try it. And like Billy said, if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, that's fine. We're just here,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, about like how Billy said about, no ego, that's something that always came through just from watching like the behind the scenes stuff. He seems like such a collaborative director, and just, he pays a ton of credit to the, the people who make the costumes and every other aspect of the work. And of course the cast, and it's really cool to see that. And I think that's why those movies are as great as they are. It just seems like there was such a collaborative space.
Real team.
He's a very sensitive man. I know that kind of word gets thrown around a lot about great directors, how sensitive they are with their actors. But Pete is the only director that I've worked with ever that certainly when we were making Lord of the Rings would come over and whisper a direction to like Pete would come over and put his arm around your shoulder and just okay, just maybe do this just a little quieter, and then he'd walk away.
Nice.
A little thing between the two of you, and you'd see him do that with Viggo or Ian, and I think Pete was fully aware of like, I don't want to give a big bombastic direction in front of Ian McKellen to Viggo, and then maybe Viggo feels self-conscious, or maybe he's speaking to the group and maybe the entire group don't agree with that. Maybe this is just something for Orlando or just something for Elijah, and he'd always kind of put his arm around you and whisper, and like Billy said, very collaborative. I think maybe this, but I'm not sure. Maybe we'll just try it, and then if it works, then it works, and if it doesn't, that's okay. And he just kind of go away. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, he's so mindful of not like upsetting an actor or throwing their game off or something. Just incredibly sensitive, a sensitive man.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, obviously making such a huge movie that sometimes there was 4 or 5 different filming locations, and he wasn't at 4 of them, and so he's got a screen for each one, plus there'd be a line of people, maybe one's got 2 different daggers that, okay, this is a dagger that Wormtongue's going to use, and then person behind's got 2 jugs, this one's going to have the beer in, and he's just making decisions all the time. That one, not that one, this one, but with a bigger handle, you know, he's making these decisions, plus saying what the shot should be and all these different. I mean, the headspace to be that. Plus filming, 14-hour days and then doing 4 hours of watching the reels from the day before, the dailies. It's, I mean, unbelievable that he did that for that length of time.
Yeah, incredible.
And for so long.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously we're not, we as actors were not in any way intimidating. All of us are pretty down-to-earth people as well. But just the fact that you've got, 9 men who are playing, certainly in the books and in pop culture, these kind of iconic characters. He's directing Gandalf and Aragorn and Frodo and Sam. And for Pete, for a lot of times, certainly filming The Fellowship, for him to have 9 men in front of them and saying, right, okay, this for you, and you're doing this, and you're doing this, and watching all of us at the same time. Profound level
Amazing
of skill.
Yeah.
And
yet you all just seem to have such a sense of, who your character was. I mean, I've heard both of you say this now, not say the exact same thing, but both kind of say things that indicate that you just knew what your character would do. You know what Pippin would do in this situation. You know the look that Merry would have on his face in this situation. And I think that's why, again, you all made it work. I probably sound like I'm gushing a little too much, but it was a tremendous achievement for all of you.
That's why it's like a strange question, and we get it all the time where people say, if you could play another member of the Fellowship, who would you play? I always kind of feel like it's such a strange question to ask. Like, obviously I love and respect what all of these people did, but I wouldn't pretend that I could play all these characters anywhere near as good as they could, and I would hope that they would think, well, no, he's in his own lane. So then you find yourself going, well, I'd like to have a crack at Aragorn, or I'd like to have a crack at Gollum. You're like, no, that has been done to such a great level, So I understand that for the fans, that's a fun question, but it's straight. It's like asking, I don't know. I'm not even going to say it because that sounds egomaniacal. But it's like asking members of a brilliant band, hey, if you could all swap instruments with the other members of the band, what would you swap? And they're like, no, he plays the drums. I'm not going to play the drums like him. That's his job, So it's a weird one.
It's like asking Ringo Starr if he would rather play the guitar or do lead vocals.
That's not my thing,
Paul could go play drums. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, Paul's a pretty good drum player.
Totally fair. Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I picked a bad example because he can do just about everything. That's a good point.
But it is a strange one, that. But I understand it.
Yeah. Well, you'll be pleased to know that question is actually not on our list at all. So.
Cool. Well, so obviously the movies were made, they came out, were a huge cultural landmark, I think, and people are still talking about them. How have the fans been? I'm sure you guys must have had just tons of interaction with fans.
Millions, I'm sure.
And I'm sure there's good ones and bad ones, but what's been your overall take on sort of Tolkien fandom? How do you guys feel in that world?
I think if you think of it as fans of Tolkien, and because we have met so many different people who, whether it's people who watch the movies 20 times a year, or they all get together at Christmas, the family, and watch it, or people who have now started their own art company doing paintings, or a great friend of mine who we have had on our podcast, Casper Reif, who wrote music, all the music, every song, every poem in Lord of the Rings. He was a classical musician, and he tried to find the music. He went to his local store and said, where is the music? Who's written some music for these songs from Lord of the Rings? Couldn't find any. And he quit music college and said, I'm going to do it then. And he orchestrated music.
Wow.
For, you must look this guy up if you haven't seen it. They're called the Tolkien Ensemble. They're from Denmark.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful music.
Yeah.
Great music. Truly. And that's another fan of Tolkien. That's someone who read those books and was so influenced by this incredible story that he spent basically his whole life writing music for this story, that these songs and poems that were written. So to be able to kind of dilute that into what are the fans like is impossible because they're all over the place, and so deep in different caverns of where they have taken Tolkien, And sometimes
that's totally
sometimes
true.
that is just someone who's watched the movies and was so taken by the movies that they have to come and meet someone from the movies to be able to tell them, and that's a lovely thing for us. That is such a wonderful meeting for somebody, and they can never articulate it because you can't. There's no words for that type of deep association with something that some people have for the movies, and that's wonderful.
True.
We just get to stand there and smile as they tell us that. It's wonderful.
That's so cool.
Yeah, we actually got to see you at a few, I think, of Torn's Oscar parties. The one where .net held those Oscar parties after every one of the films. Those are some great fan experiences. Maybe since you can't certainly distill a million different fan experiences into one, tell us maybe a little bit about your experiences at those. And I know, Billy, your experience was different because you also got to play with your band at the last one, as I recall.
And Dom actually sang at it.
Yeah,
if you
that's
remember,
right. I remember that. Yes.
My band B Cake was coming to play at it, and we thought, well, there's no show without punch, and so all the boys thought, we need to get Dom to do something. So we asked him, and I think you picked a couple of songs.
Yeah. That was great fun.
And then he turned up and was the rock star that he is, and played a couple of songs before we finished the set, and it was brilliant. Those people are so great. It was so lovely. All the years of that were just, memories that we'll take to our grave for sure.
Yeah.
I know, me
it's
too.
Also,
I was there at each one of them, including that very early one for Fellowship that was still quite small back when it was just a little gathering.
It's also maybe like an opportunity for that group to maybe be accepted for that one evening with, maybe a glass of wine or a beer, and kind of let your hair down a little bit in a community that all appreciate the same thing. That's why I like these. That's why we all like these conventions so much, is that maybe for that one day, or maybe for those couple of days in a year, they can wear what they want, do what they want, say what they want, and people just say, that's great, you're interested in that, we're ready. And obviously this is even more honed because they're only really interested in the work of Tolkien, So those things are great. They're really fun. It's a little, certainly when the films were cracking off, it's a little difficult to navigate your way through those for us. I mean, we weren't able to walk around. We're kind of
everybody wanted a piece of you. So I'm sure that was hard.
We're in green rooms, and then you come out and do something, then you go back into a green room. So that's a strange phenomenon when you're so closely related to something, is sometimes you don't get a chance to really experience it in the way that maybe a lot of the people in the room do, because you do get pulled in a different bunch of directions. But tons of fun, super positive, great music, and just a really good night, really.
They were fun.
Yeah, I only went to the one for Return of the King, and that was amazing.
Well, that was a big one.
If you're only going to pick one,
that's the big one.
True.
Yeah, if you're only going to pick one, that's the one. Turns out we were both there. Of course, we didn't know each other. We hadn't started the podcast. We wouldn't end up meeting until much, much later. But it was definitely a fantastic experience for me as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of starting podcasts, now we want to talk to you guys about yours. So you've been doing The Friendship Onion for a little over a year now, right? Tell us a little bit about the genesis of it.
We forgot to have a year party.
Yeah, we should have had a year party.
I don't know what happened there.
We were probably doing something. I think, Billy and I are always looking for ways to work with each other because we spend so much time together, and realized that the podcast medium was so easy for us because, essentially we're just kind of talking around, like sitting around and talking about things that we're interested in. And then, I think one of the things that we wanted to achieve was this idea that it should feel like two friends sat having a natter, having a chat, not a huge amount of structure. We obviously have a few things that come in every so often, riddles and tongue twisters, and we eat or drink something every week if we can find it. But generally, the show goes where it's supposed to go. And that's based on the idea of, if you've got a spare hour and you really just want to relax, it's not going to be hard-hitting political stories or what's going on in the news.
Thank goodness.
It's going to be two friends just having some fun, and then you can get back to your real life, and that's hopefully what we are continuing to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And people were asking me the weekend there, how do you choose your guests? And a lot of the time it comes from what me and Dom have been talking about maybe the week before on the podcast. And like somehow we get into a discussion about string theory and quantum mechanics. So a couple of weeks later we got Brian Greene on to give his thoughts on quantum theory. And then we're talking about space, so we got an astronaut on. Then we're talking about Top Gun, so we got a fighter pilot on. So it's this great thing that we chat the way we'd always chat, but then we say to Cast Media, hey, we're just talking about Top Gun. Any chance of getting a fighter pilot? So we can find out if you can actually do these things. And they go, yeah. And we're like, great.
Yeah. There's usually the occasional fighter pilot that's seen Lord of the Rings and is happy to come on, So it's been a brilliant opportunity.
Well, right.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and just people who are passionate about things like you guys, It's just brilliant. Just like today we were talking, as I said to you, we were trying mead because I met a guy who started a meadery to make, this ancient drink.
Yeah, honey wine.
And he's a big Lord of the Rings fan, and so they have a restaurant that's all Lord of the Rings based, and they make leather goods, and it's just like walking into the Prancing Pony, It's so to be able to talk to these people, it's great. And we're very slowly finding the answer to everything. But we haven't quite got there yet.
Everything.
But very slowly, just chipping away at it.
Yeah. We're making progress.
Your show is going to be the repository of all human knowledge.
Exactly.
You don't need an Encyclopedia Galactica. We just need the friendship.
That's what it is. In a few years, we'll just hear from Dom's Corner, ping, and he'll get it, and he will tell everybody on the Friendship Onion the answer to the universe, life, and everything.
That's right.
We all know that it's 42. The problem is we can't know the question in the same universe.
Dom will get it.
Dom, have you managed to read the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books yet? I know you hadn't had a chance.
No, I have it on audio book, but unfortunately, audiobooks are like catnip to me. Where I put them on, and then by the end of like the second sentence, I'm done. So,
which is a shame because you're driving on the 405.
Yeah. So I'll get there, and I know it's a great book. Billy's recommended it to me for years. I think even in New Zealand, you might have recommended it to me.
Although I've never bought you it.
No, Billy won't buy me a book. He refuses to buy me a book.
Dom buys me a lot of books.
We're currently running, I think, a 6-0 run of me buying you books.
At least.
Yeah. And
well, Dom, I'm pretty sure I can vouch for Sean. We'll send you a copy of Hitchhiker's
Guide. Fantastic.
We'll get you copies of the books.
We got you covered.
Did you know I was lucky enough? They got the original radio cast together and put it on stage. Did you hear about this?
Oh, I
did hear about that.
No.
I did hear about that.
Sadly, the gentleman who played the book had passed away, so I got to be the book on stage with the original cast.
How fun was that a bit?
Oh my God, it was amazing. Just hearing these voices that I knew so well from the BBC. That's how you should listen to the BBC original. It's just amazing. I mean, the TV show was great. I love the TV show.
Yeah.
But that original BBC was wonderful.
It's one of those titles that changed so much in every adaptation, didn't it? It's like really different stories every time, and yet they're all so good.
So good. He just the sort of mundane of life. How he, that sort of British English really life of like filling in forms and waiting in line,
drizzly rain and grey skies, and
the 45 different kinds of rain.
And then when you get to outer space, it's just more of that, but it's just with aliens.
It's just more boring, mundane stuff. Yeah,
clearing Earth to make way for an express route.
I love it.
And we've just done an example of what we do on our show all the time, which is digress into something totally unrelated.
Oh, I love it. That's what we do on our show too. It's the best part of the show.
That's me and Dom.
That's sort of our tagline is we digress.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about listening to you guys is because you will, you'll every once in a while you'll have somebody on from the Lord of the Rings movies, or you'll talk to, you guys had the Tolkien professor Corey Olson on not long ago. We know him very well.
Lovely guy.
Yeah, so you'll do some of those things, but then you'll do like you'll have like a composer, like a film composer on, or like you guys had a Mythbuster on not long ago. I think it was Adam Savage was on. Just all different kinds of guests, and it just the conversation. You never know where the conversation is going to go, and it's just great.
Right.
Yeah, we want to keep that open, and up until now, I think we've hopefully achieved that.
And don't you feel that in modern society that's sort of not allowed? Like modern producers and companies, they want things to be pigeonholed. What is this? How can we sell this in one line? Well, if you go back, you go back 50 years, Saturday evening TV was so random, and the shows changed every week, and it was fun because you didn't know what was going to happen. And I think me and Dom want to get a bit of that. And obviously there's always going to be some Lord of the Rings there, but we're not just going to churn out, the same thing every week. It's just like, keep it fresh and keep it about life. Like I was saying, if we're talking about something, bring that on next week. And what are we talking about now? And Lord of the Rings will always pop up with us because we're such huge fans of it, and it's where we met, and and we get excited when someone from the Rings comes on, whoever it is, if it's Richard Taylor or whoever. But and it doesn't have to just be the actors, we want to hear but everyone's story from that. But it's good to keep everything else going as well,
Absolutely. Agreed. That's what's so fun about it. It is just a nice break from whatever's going on in your life, and I'm just like, all right, I'll just pop on an episode of this and just listen and laugh and just hang out with you guys. It's a lot of fun.
And then you'll get the secret of life at some point.
Yeah.
If you keep listening.
At some point, and I'll hear you guys eat the world, which sounds like it's going pretty well.
I love that.
Yeah, we haven't had too many dodgy ones yet. They're all relatively nice.
Tinned oysters. That was the only thing.
Was bad. Yeah.
Never have a tinned oyster. It is awful.
I'll take your word for it.
I love a good like raw oyster, even like a grilled oyster, but I've never had them out of tin.
Try it. Try it once. It'll only be once. Yeah. But try it once.
That's like lutefisk. Only once. Yeah. You never have to try it again.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that when you guys first started, Billy, you weren't originally as much of a podcast fan as Dom was. Is that accurate, first off? I don't want to presume.
That is 100% on the nose. Well done.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Now that you've done your own podcast, are you more of a podcast fan?
I'm more of a Friendship Onion fan.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
I listen to it every week.
That's totally fair.
Twice when it comes out my mouth and once in my ears.
How is it listening to yourself? I mean,
brilliant.
Obviously, you're used to watching yourself on the screen.
Did you seriously just say brilliant? Oh, that was great. That was great.
What I love, I love my accent. I love the way I sound, so I could listen myself all day.
Well, look, I think that makes 4 of us here, right?
Yeah, at least 3.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Billy Boyd Admiration Society podcast for today. We're going to join us again next week when we talk about how great he is at something else.
I'm really good at going a bike. We'll talk about that as well. No, you're right. I wasn't a fan. I didn't really get it. I was always a fan of BBC dramas. I always listened to that. I worked quite a lot in them early on in my career, and I used to love listening to the Play in the Afternoon and all these things. But I never really got the podcast thing for the first few years. And Dom had his favourites, and he would send, "You should listen to this," and I don't know. I never listened to it. I was always listening to music in the car and stuff, so I didn't really. And it was only when Dom said we should do a podcast, I thought I better listen to a couple to see what what the medium is.
See what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
Yeah, before you dive in.
So I did start listening to a few, and I do love them now. I listen now when I'm driving the car mainly, and I do have a few favourites now. Normally.
Now
you can't say that without telling us some of your favorites.
You got to tell us what your favorite ones are, and then Dom, you're going to answer that question after he does.
The Prancing Pony.
Oh, it's a good shout. It's a good shout.
That's your great answer.
That's a good answer.
There you go.
He said it on. It's recorded. I was going to say
It's
on
there.
tape. I was going to date myself. It's
That's
recorded.
my number one, of course. I like the Infinite Monkey Cage.
Yeah, the Infinite Monkey Cage, Brian Cox. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I like that. Anything about space or science, I really like.
Cool. Yeah.
There's a film one called The Rewatchables that Dom introduced me to, which I really like, where they rewatch a movie, and then they talk about that movie, but they also talk about their lives during that. You know, what were they doing when Terminator 2 came out, and blah blah blah. I really like that one as well. So there's a few favourites. How about you, Dominic Monaghan?
Yeah, lovely. I really like the rewatchables as well. I listened to Mark Kermode and Simon Mayo, who are probably the most respected film reviewers out of England. They have a podcast each week. Mark Kermode has his own podcast about film, which I also listen to. I listen to for a lot of people, very boring podcasts about football, mainly Manchester United and the Premier League. Lots of stuff about science. There's a guy called Dr. Carl on a BBC Radio 4 phone-in, who you would love, by the way.
Yeah,
and I've recommended this guy to Billy in the early days of me trying to recommend podcasts, but now that Billy's actually listening to stuff, he might like it. It's an hour-long phone call where people just call up and ask him anything about science. So someone might say,
that's great.
explain to us about the origins of the universe, and he'll have to answer that. And then someone else might say, how come my kettle won't work? And he'll go, okay, let's explore that.
I love that.
And everything in between, why do leopards have spots, and why is lightning hot, and why is water wet, and all that kind of stuff. And that's just a really fascinating phone call.
What's his name?
Dr. Carl. I'll send you a link. He's a fascinating man, and I think he's written 50 books, and he's just a really smart dude. So I like him a lot. Lots of podcasts about insects because I'm obsessed. Is that it? Out of the ones that I am kind of into, here and there, I'll kind of get into maybe. Hardcore History, Dan Carlin's Hardcore History is incredible.
Fantastic.
He doesn't bring them out that often, but when he drops them, it's like 15 hours of work that he's done.
Right, yeah. That's your week's listening
incredible.
Sorted out. Yeah.
His one about Genghis Khan, I think it's called The Wrath of the Khans, which is a little Star Trek nod, which is like a 18, 20-hour podcast just about Genghis Khan's life, was one of the greatest audio experiences I've ever had. So he lives in my heart, that guy.
And I wasn't lying, by the way, when I said your podcast. I was working down in Atlanta, Georgia, doing. There's a robot in it, and then there's a girl. She's got a lot.
Doom Patrol.
Doom Patrol.
It's crazy that I know Billy's career more than he does.
Yeah.
I was doing Doom Patrol, and I had a 45-minute drive every day, and I was listening to you guys a lot. So there you go.
Wow. Were you?
Yeah,
really?
I really was.
That's awesome.
I'm touched, man.
No,
That's
Thank you.
great.
Thank you so much.
Some really good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
We apologize if you heard any of our Pippin voices in any Pippin
Goodness.
dialogue.
I'm mortified about that. But
sometimes you did bring up stuff, but you were always very nice, so I liked you even better then.
I sometimes feel, I quite often cringe for Billy, because at some of these conventions, people have waited for years to do a Pippin accent, and it's generally not good. So there was a guy that came over to me, and I thought, if he's doing it to me, he's definitely done it to Billy. And he came over, and he's in line, and, I'm signing stuff, what's your name, blah, blah, blah. And then he took a deep breath, and he went, and what about a second breakfast? And I was like, oh, yeah. And I went, oh, that's great, man, great. And I thought, he's definitely done that to me. And Billy's gone, oh, fantastic.
Very nice.
Very good. Very nice. Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's amazing. And
I'm
horrible.
I'm sure Andy Serkis gets it every time he walks out of his door.
Oh, wow.
I am certain
sure.
Coming over doing
Yeah,
awful
that's-
Gollum impressions in front of him, and he has to go, well done.
What a
Brilliant.
great voice to have kind of
Incredible.
discovered, huh?
Man.
Incredible, yeah.
It's amazing how many people
he
can
kinda
do
had
it.
two different Gollum voices. 'Cause
Yeah.
He did, kind of a Smeagol version
Yeah.
and a Gollum
Yeah,
version.
Smeagol's quite sweet, I saw Andy recently at
Yeah.
a convention. I haven't seen Andy for probably 8 or 9 years or so, and he just looked fantastic, and he was in really good spirits, and it was great to see him, and what a career he's had, and it was just great because when we were making
he has
Rings,
been.
there's a lot of people from a lot of different countries, but myself and Billy and Andy and Sean Bean were quite bonded on this kind of British thing. We knew what it meant to be British. We knew what it meant to talk about things like Blackadder and Monty Python and English music and British music. And we all became quite tight. And also, Andy was away with 2 Americans a lot, with Elijah and Sean. And I think sometimes Andy kind of harked for a little bit of British kind of culture and stuff. So it was just great to see him and connect with him after a while of being away,
And also,
I'm hearing Dominic Monaghan saying these things, Sean, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, Blackadder and Monty Python, that is us. Are we living in the wrong country?
You are. Yeah. It's good taste if you like those shows.
I think we're a couple of Anglophiles over here, but that actually kind of brings up another good question. How do you guys like living here in LA after really being from and growing up in the UK?
I love it.
Yeah.
I 100% love living in LA. I know some actors have problems with it, but I love getting up in the morning and it's sunny. I love walking around and there's great food everywhere and healthy where I'm staying. I love to surf. My son's just got into surfing the last year. So getting up and paddling out in the water, and all right, it's not Hawaii. It's not as if you've got shorts on, but it's not Scotland either. I don't need gloves and boots to, so for me, and I forget I'm in the business most of the time. I'm kind of just living my sort of life, and I think America, is a really great country. It's got its problems like every country, but it's a beautiful place, and in LA in particular, California is a lovely place and a nice lifestyle. I love it.
Yeah.
It's too expensive. Other than that,
well, it's not as expensive as Britain. I don't.
Unless you want to buy a car or buy a house.
Certain things, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it too. Same things that Billy likes. The incredible choices of cuisine in LA is amazing. You've got an extraordinary Thai town, and then Koreatown, and Little Italy, and Japan, and Little Armenia, and so the choices of food is incredible. I like the fact that, like Billy said, for the most part, a lot of the community are getting up early. They're taking care of themselves. They're mindful. Maybe take your dog on a walk to the beach, or do yoga in the morning, or go to the gym. It's too fucking hot for me here. Like, I cannot. it would be my. It's my number one criticism, and it really does bum me out. It's the only thing that genuinely bums me out about LA. I like to garden. My dad's a gardener. I kind of learned from my dad. I admire my dad's ability to garden, and I like to garden. And so I get up now 6 a.m, and I try and get most of my gardening done till around about 10:30. And then unfortunately, I get kind of sent back into my house because of the sun. Because it's just excruciatingly hot. It gives me a headache. I get sunburnt. I burn the tips of my ears. I burn the back of my neck. I burn my hands. All these kind of like crazy things because I have English German skin. So I hide under my air conditioner until 6 p.m. The great thing that Billy said is because you're in LA, the sun doesn't go down until 8:30, 9 o'clock sometimes in the height of summer. So then at 6 p.m, I run outside and I do the rest of my gardening that I have to do for the day. And then I go back in. That would be my only criticism for me personally about LA is I would like to go for a walk in the afternoon at 1. I would like to walk down to my local village. I would like to go for a 2-hour stroll in the afternoon. It's just too hot. It's too hot.
Yeah. There's a good 4 months out of the year where that's absolutely true. No doubt about it. I've lived there all my life. I hear you for sure.
Yeah. I lived there for 7 years, and I moved to Texas.
Damn.
Apparently, it wasn't hot enough for him.
Apparently, it wasn't hot enough for me. And now I'm just here, and I'm just like, I don't know. Sometimes I just leave in the morning, and it's already 95 degrees.
Yeah, where's next for you? Hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just get hotter and hotter.
Yeah. My favorite time in LA is probably January because it's kind of quiet and it's more susceptible to rain and it's much milder and you actually can do all the things that you want to do. But so you have a
really
slightly
can.
quieter LA, but also just the weather is so much easier to just navigate through. You know.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
And you guys are really friends. I mean, you guys actually hang out, don't you? I mean, I know it's, you guys do a great job of
This isn't just a show?
Right?
They've been playing Friends on TV for 20 years. 22 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys probably hang out, get together, get to enjoy LA together sometime.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain things on weekends that we both like. Billy and I both occasionally enjoy UFC, and if there's a big fight going on, I mean, this weekend when we were away, we managed to watch the recent UFC fight. So if there's an interesting fight going on with UFC, we'll get together and maybe I can cajole Billy to check out a restaurant, or he can maybe sometimes convince me to go surfing or go to the cinema. So yeah, we definitely hang out with each other. I don't have a massive social group here. I'm not that overly enamored with being on any kind of bar, restaurant, social scene. It's really not where I'm at in my life and hasn't been for a while. So I have a very small group of friends, and Billy and his family are at the top of that list. So that's who I really hang out with.
I've got a huge group of friends.
Yeah, he's very well liked.
I don't have a lot of time for hanging with Dom. So, I've got a lot of other friends I need to see.
I catch him when I can catch him.
I'll try to pencil you in on my
just make
schedule
sure to work
here.
in some time for him when you're starting to feel like you need
Exactly.
I'll carve out a little time for you in my busy
He
schedule.
sometimes has windows.
to. That's how I am with Alan, actually. It's just,
yeah.
Whenever I'll make time for you.
There you go.
So here's an interesting question, except I'm going to ask it a little backwards. I want to ask each of you, like Billy, what's your favorite memory of Dom? And Dom, what's your favorite memory of Billy over the course of your friendship? But before you answer, I actually want you to guess what the other's answer is going to be. So, Dom, I want you to tell me what you think Billy's favorite memory of you is over the course of your friendship.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange question, really, because it's ongoing, isn't it? It's almost as if one of us have died, So you're saying, what was your favorite memory that you can recall?
And that's your
On the Prancing Pony podcast,
yeah.
we have some bad news.
Your favorite memory of me is when I died?
Yeah, there's a...
Okay, memory is the wrong word. Experience. Talk to me about an experience.
It almost feels like in kind of saying this, there's a full stop to it that memory has peaked. So I think it's important to say that the memories are ongoing. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
But what
As of
what
this
would
moment,
I think
I
Billy would
suppose.
say about me? Well, in terms of I don't even know if it's that much of a profound memory, but in terms of a moment, one that sticks in my head that I know Billy got a massive amount of joy from was we were at a party for Lord of the Rings, I think it was a kind of end of a break, like a Christmas break, or I don't even know if we had a summer break. It might have been the Christmas break. Anyway, Billy knows this
I know
already.
what it is. It wasn't going to be the thing I said, but now that you've
Billy
said
knows
that.
this already. Billy got up on stage and sang Help. It was a big party. All the cast and crew were there. We were all having a great time. It went late. It went to 2 or 3 in the afternoon. It was rambunctious. It was fun, spilling out onto the streets. I got separated from Billy, but I was looking for him because we were supposed to be going home together, maybe to carry on with the party or do something else. And someone had given me a cowboy hat, and I wasn't aware of the fact that the cowboy hat was on slightly akimbo, just not straight, just slightly off.
And crushed.
And squished, yeah. And I was walking down a backlit side street in which I was silhouetted perfectly, and Billy was in hysterics with me coming towards him. I didn't know what was going on, and he couldn't speak for a couple of minutes before he was able to say, your hat. So I just remember that sticking in my head as a funny moment for Billy. What?
That's good.
But yours was something.
Billy, was he right?
That was brilliant. And then you created a character
Oh yeah.
of that. I can't remember what the character was. It was an old.
We remembered it a few.
It was
weeks
like an
ago.
old actor, an old
Yeah,
English actor that you made up
It was someone like Terence Crystal or someone like that, and I became this new character.
with this hat. Oh my god! I don't know why
brilliant.
I found it so funny, but he was backlit and just his silhouette walking down this. I could hardly breathe. Yeah. So if I had to say what what my thing is of Dom, or have I to say what I think?
I wanted to know if he was right, guessing that would be the memory you would have shared.
It is actually it was a different memory, but the same sort of thing where Dom's had me laughing. But this time, the one I would have chose, he knew that he had me laughing. We were in Queenstown, filming Lord of the Rings, and we were in a hotel. And when we got to Queenstown, as you guys will probably know, when we got there to film, it was flooded. They had huge storms, and
I remember that.
And most of Queenstown was underwater. We were filming in a place called Paradise, but when we got to the hotel, we couldn't get in through the foyer. The ground level was underwater, so we get into our rooms through ladders. They'd set up ladders, so the car sort of drove up, and then we got out onto a ladder and went up and through sort of the balcony to get to our rooms. And we'd been working one day, and we had two drivers called Art and
Eric? No.
Eric.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember what the story was, but it was something to do with a ski lift. And Dom started telling this story that had me laughing so, like, I was doubled up with spit coming out my mouth. I couldn't breathe. I honestly couldn't. And I was trying to get out of the room because I was laughing so hard. And I couldn't even, like, because I had no oxygen in my body, I couldn't even walk to the door. And like a fighter, like a comedy fighter, he stayed on me with this story, telling me more and more, trying to make me pass out. I was laughing so much.
You're trying to throw in the towel.
Oh my God, I was trying to get him to stop. I was honestly saying, no. And I can only remember 2 times in my life laughing like that. It was another comedian who did it to me, and he did it that night where I would have honestly paid money to get me stop telling the story. I was laughing so hard. That's the one I remember.
Yeah, I wish we could recall the actual story. I do remember
because
it was something about a ski lift.
It started off as the true story, and then you expanded it and expanded it, and it was just the best story I'd ever heard. It was so funny.
That's great.
Yeah, good times.
So yeah, that's the one I would have.
All right. And now it's your turn, Billy, to tell me what you think Dom would say his favorite memory of you is.
I would think when we were in Thailand and we went to an island, someone told us that there was a great restaurant on an island that you had to take a kayak to. So me and Dom took this kayak across 20 minutes across to this island. And we said we liked spicy food or whatever. And we chose these prawns. And the chef came out, didn't speak any English, and he said, no. Like as if you guys shouldn't eat this. And we were like, no, we like spicy. They give us. And we had these prawns, and they were hot. I mean, they were like raw prawns with chili oil. And they were hot, but we ate them. And they were good. And it was a good restaurant. We thought, that was worthwhile.
Yeah.
And then we paddled back to the mainland. But about 10 minutes into this 20-minute paddle, my stomach was just... And I was like, Dom, I'm not going to make it. And it was getting dark, and it was only the moon. And I honestly thought I was going to take a shit off the side of this canoe. And I thought, oh my God, the embarrassment for the rest of my life having to listen to Dom tell everyone the story where I had to shit off a canoe. So we were like, oh my God. And we're paddling. There was these flying fish. They were flying next to it was crazy. And as soon as we hit dry land, I just ran. I didn't even care what was going to happen to this. I just left Dom. And I made it to the toilet. But that could, because I remember he was laughing a lot in my discomfort.
Yeah.
So that might be the thing that he remembers best. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably it. There's nothing that I can think that is, as as funny. We've had some great moments, Billy and I, but that's definitely one of the ones that is at the top of the list. And it's funny that Billy said as soon as we hit dry land, because we did not hit dry land. We were probably thigh deep in the water, and Billy was like, "That's me, I'm done." And we had rented this canoe, so he ran off, and I had to pull it up onto the dry beach and then hike it on my own, like 500 feet down this beach in the roasting hot Thai sun. And then and then I got to the room that we were sharing with Orlando, and Billy was fine by that point. But yeah, that adventure to Thailand was pretty beautiful.
That is a great story.
That's friendship right there.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys made it through that. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
That was.
And
I mean,
Thailand.
Well, I know you were concerned about Dom laughing at you for the rest of your life, and now you're going to have 15,000 people listening to the show laughing at you for a very long
what
time.
an experience. Also, that was the first time for both of us in Thailand, wasn't it?
And Orlando, I think.
Orlando, myself, Billy, and Orlando. And Thailand's just a stunning place. The food is amazing, the people are amazing, the geology and the geography are amazing, the animals, and we did not have any time off from Lord of the Rings apart from this one holiday. And instead of going to our homes, we all chose to go to Australia for like a week and then Thailand for 2, and it was about as perfect as it could be. Right?
Yeah, it was such.
We're young and single, and everything's fun.
Of course.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Good times. Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
Well, hey, bringing us back to the present just for a bit, I know I want to make sure you guys have a chance to talk about this. I know you're kind of doing a little tour right now, right? You guys are on tour with some other Hobbit friends and some others. You guys want to tell us a little bit about what's going on there?
Yeah, just before COVID, we were just before anyone knew that COVID was going to happen, we were approached by a convention company called Fan Expo, the 4 Hobbits, in which they kind of secured us on 7 dates around the United States and Canada, which we were supposed to do, kind of a year and a half ago. And then obviously COVID hit and everything got postponed and delayed, and we were assuring people online that things weren't cancelled, they were just delayed. And then since we've been able to move around again, we've been back. So up until now, we've done a convention in Calgary and Dallas, and just got back from Denver, and then we go to Chicago next week, and then we do Boston and
Toronto,
and is that it?
That's it, done.
I feel like I'm missing one, but maybe
You
I'm
were
not.
missing one. I'll tell you what it was. Florida.
We did Florida as well, and it's been great. It's been a really great chance for us all to travel again after so much amount of time being landlocked and hang out with each other. Obviously the 4 of us, myself, Billy, Elijah, and Sean, know each other so well, and we come together for Lord of the Rings, and we spend our Saturdays and Sundays at these Lord of the Rings conventions. The great thing is when we go for dinner on this Friday night, I don't think we have ever really talked about Lord of the Rings, have we? We just sit around and ask about our families and talk about life and talk about things in general. It doesn't tend to be that much Lord of the Rings talk, which is great because there's a genuine cemented friendship there that is not just based on Lord of the Rings. It started that way, but has continued to blossom in different ways from there.
That is excellent.
Yeah, it's lovely. And to think, 22 years, Sean, not 25, 22.
Thank
Not
you,
at all. And we have never done a convention together. And those right up to this year.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's so weird and wonderful, and the fans coming and seeing all of us together is sort of it multiplies it somehow. It's just so much more fun and weird and wonderful. And we do these stage shows now where the Fan Expo people are really good at kind of giving the audience a real fun. They said to us, "Do you want us to tell you what's going to happen?" We said, "No, just stick us on the stage and then
That's great.
and then see what happens." So we learned how to do a line dance. We were doing scenes from Star Wars as us, and it's been really fun.
Yeah, it's funny that Billy said that. We will all sign in a kind of long table. So Elijah will be at the far end, let's say, and then Sean in the middle, and myself and Billy. So we're all kind of separated by maybe 20 feet or so, and people in different lines. But what you'll notice is, let's say I'm going to run off and grab a quick cup of tea and give myself, 5-minute break, or it's lunchtime. If I go over to one of the guys to tell them, you'll hear this like rise of interest and electricity in the line. You go over and you say to Elijah, hey, I'm just going to run in. You can see everyone in the line. Oh, look, there's the two of them. And then, like Billy said, if it's 3 of us, then it's even more multiplied. And then, God forbid, the 4 of us are hanging out. People start to, there's a frisson in the air. I like that word.
That's a lovely word.
Isn't that great?
Imagine the frisson if the 4 of us arrived on, say, for instance, a horse-drawn carriage driven by Ian McKellen.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we'll do that.
Could we make that happen?
Should we send out an email if he wants to?
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah, I'd love that too.
Haven't seen Ian for a while. I'd like to see him.
Yeah, we saw him at the Hobbit premiere, right?
Yeah.
That was the last time we saw him.
Such a sweet man. He always, he sent every Christmas, I think if you get on his list, then he'll send you a sticky toffee pudding with English custard and a bottle of dessert wine. And I think I moved house a couple of times, and I found myself not on that list.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I need to get back. I need to get back on it because it's a lovely gift to get every year. Christmas time, lovely.
Yeah. Life goals, Sean. Let's get on.
I know.
Sir Ian's Christmas list.
Get on Sir Ian's Christmas list. Some sticky toffee pudding and dessert
and
wine.
It's a good pudding, I tell you what. Oh,
I think Tom Cruise has a list, a mythological list like that as well, right? Every Christmas he sends, I think it's something like 900 people at this point, the same cake. And if you're on that list, people talk about it like, oh, are you on the list? Yeah, I'm on the list. You got the cake? Yeah, I got the cake. It's supposed to be this incredible cake, expensive cake, and it's completely ballooned out of control now where he's sending 900 people a cake every Christmas.
I don't know if I've mentioned to you, Dom, but...
Better than 900 copies of an L. Ron Hubbard book.
Yeah, that's true.
I really like Top Gun.
Yeah, you like both of those Top Guns, didn't you?
I see that new one, though. Can't stop thinking about it. I'm going to go and see it.
Oh, that new one was fantastic.
I loved it.
Hey, I'll go see it with you again if you go.
I will go.
I'll go see it with you again if you go.
Was some of it filmed in IMAX?
Yeah, I went to see it in IMAX.
Was some of it filmed in IMAX, though? Because I don't go and see IMAX unless it's filmed in IMAX.
Filmed in IMAX.
I'll go and see it in IMAX then, because I want to get shot into space with Tom Cruise's missile.
Of course you do.
Let me know if you guys find it still showing in IMAX. I've been looking, and I can only find it in that, I don't know what they call it now, with the wraparound screen.
Sound.
I can't find it in IMAX anywhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I went to see
Dom will find it.
Seems like it's left the...
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. Well,
They've got the Dolby screen now where like the seats shake and all that stuff. Is
4X,
that the
right?
4X,
4X, I think they call that. Yeah.
Do you remember, maybe you guys are too young for this, when Earthquake came out? Remember that movie Earthquake?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they had that. They had that's how they advertised it. You will believe you're in an earthquake. But I don't think the seats did. I think they just had like really...
Not back then.
Yeah, but they advertised it as if like...
Yeah.
You know, I think they probably just had big bass bins.
Yeah.
It was just like going to see
it was
Fat
a real
Boy Slim.
low frequency rumbles that made you feel like it.
With just like me in that canoe coming back from Thailand.
There's a little rumble in the seat there.
Yeah, Jesus.
Little rumbly in the tumbly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, goodness.
All right. Well, I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with any of the news of Amazon's Rings of Power series or anything like that. We certainly have. But we'd love to ask you, since we've got you here, if you had one piece of advice for the actors who are appearing in that new series. You know, this new generation of actors about to bring Middle-earth to life. What advice would you have?
Oof, what advice?
My advice would be, which I think is probably the biggest reason. There's lots of reasons why Lord of the Rings, the movies, did well, I suppose, or people like them. But I would say the main reason came from Pete Jackson saying to us, you know, this might be called a fantasy, but we have to think of it as a history. That everything that's happened, everything that happens to these characters happens in a real way. They might not be human, but they feel in a real, deep, human, way. I did the air quotes there. I don't know if this is video or just audio. But everything that happens, you know, it can't be that surface skating fantasy. if you're playing an elf or a dwarf or orc or whatever it is, you're feeling things. You know, you have relationships, you feel them, and that would be my biggest piece of advice is, you know, it's a history, it's not a fantasy.
That's great. I love that.
Lovely that, William.
Thanks, Dom.
Mine would be a little bit more low key, which is just to enjoy it. You know, like, don't put yourself under so much pressure. It's difficult to think about the book and how well it's respected, and then Peter Jackson's trilogy and how well that's respected, and now suddenly they're, you know, in the same world, and how do you follow something like that? As actors, this might be, for those actors, the longest job they ever do, the most enjoyable job they ever do, the job where they make the most amount of friends, do the most amount of traveling, maybe hang on to a character for the longest amount of time in their career. So just enjoy it. Just have a nice time. Enjoy your days at work. Enjoy the experience. Enjoy the ride. Don't put yourself under any pressure, because, you know, if it's good or if it's bad, you're going to get more out of it if you enjoy it.
That's a very, very good piece of advice.
Lovely. Thank you both for that. That was great.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you for coming to the Prancing Pony. I'm sure that the pony has changed a lot since the last time you guys were here. But before you go, I've got one last thing. Billy, could you say it for us one more time, that it comes in pints?
It comes in pints? I'm getting one.
There we go.
Yes.
Thank
Amazing.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Billy, Dom, really, this has been an incredible opportunity. We've had so much fun. We don't want it to end, but we know we're out of time and you're out of time. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, you guys. It was a pleasure. It's so nice to hang out with people who love the Tolkien world as much as we do. So good luck to you guys, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
A real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you both so much. And you're both welcome to come back on the Prancing Pony podcast
Cool.
if you'd ever like to again.
Thanks, you
Standing
guys.
invite.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. We might get you on the Friendship Onion sometime soon.
Yeah, good luck with it all.
We would
That
love
would be
that.
great. We'd love to.
Happy to join you there. Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, guys.
But listeners, that does wrap it up for this episode of the Prancing Pony podcast and for season 6. But we will be back on September 18th with season 7 and book 5 of The Lord of the Rings.
In the meantime, though, we're going to be very busy during our hiatus working on our book and bringing you more episodes of the Rings of Power wrap-up while we look forward to the premiere of the series on September 2nd. So please don't forget to check us out there.
And we'll be working on The Moot as well. That's coming up in October, so keep your eyes out and keep your ears peeled for a release in the RSS feed to tell you all about that in the very near future.
Absolutely. But before we go, folks, we want to thank the team that helps make this show better. That's our research assistants, along with our Barliman, Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
And speaking of the website, please make sure to give us a visit at theprancingponypodcast.com. We've got show notes, hilarious outtakes, Prancing Pony ponderings, and our online storefront where you can get all sorts of PPP merch.
And you're definitely going to want to check out our library page. You know we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we've provided links for you to get nearly every book we mention on the show. And we do get a few pennies from the purchases you make there, so thank you.
And now we want to thank some more really important people, our patrons at the Kierdance contribution tier. I'm going to start with DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, B in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Carlos in California, Brian in the UK, and Ned from Connecticut.
And there's also Jerry from Washington, Joe in Washington, Erwin from the Netherlands, Dylan in Australia, Ben in Minnesota, Anthony in Texas, Dorwin in Michigan, Karen in the UK, Zaksu in Illinois, Jim in Maryland, Brian in Texas, Sarah in New Jersey, and June in Ireland. Thank you all so very much for your support.
Absolutely.
And everyone listening, please be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast app is.
That's right. And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and, well, most of all, your hopes, dreams, and anticipations about Season 7 to Barliman at theprancingponypodcast.com. And if you want a chance to have your actual voice heard, you can send us audio of you asking your question by visiting podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us.
Just make sure to still send the question to Barliman for us, please.
Please do.
Now, Barliman's a lot more reliable lately, but we do get a lot of mail. So we'll get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
As always, this episode and, well, possibly this season have both been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.